Hey, welcome back to Shane Plays. We're going to do some more reviews of Rebirth from DC Comics. Of course, we've already covered some of the initial. There was the DC Rebirth one shot itself, and then there's some of the individual titles. We've done some one shots or reviews of that as the story and the new status quo is kind of unfolding. So make sure to look for that video. I'll probably do some more of these um, as Rebirth continues. I don't know. We'll just see. I mean, there's so many. I mean, I have, all these comics here. So I'm just going to spend a little bit of time on each. My general impression of Rebirth from DC as a whole continues to be pretty favorable. Um, I like the new status quo that they're trying to establish, and they have managed to do it without a full-on reboot. So it's almost like the DC universe has had an amnesia that they're being woke up from. It's more like that rather than a full-on reboot. So, and as with anything, when you have multiple issues and multiple writers and titles and characters, it's going to be variable quality. But I haven't read anything yet that was terrible. And most of it's pretty darn good. So, and again, right now I'm just done with Marvel due to their social engineering, all new, all different stuff they're doing, especially with Captain America. I'm just done with it. Uh, so that's freed up time and budget to invest in all of these Rebirth. So whether you're reading Marvel or not, it's up to you. I think that they're not worth supporting right now, but if you like them, more power to you. But pick up some of the Rebirth stuff. I think you'll like it if you're not already. Um, so we'll jump right in there with Flash Rebirth, and what you'll find is if it's a one shot, a Rebirth one shot, then it'll have the logo of the character up here, and then down here it'll have this Rebirth. And then if it's actually the ongoing series of the new series, then you'll have the main character logo here, and then the Rebirth up here. So that's one kind of easy way to figure out what you're looking at. And then of course you have the new DC logo and the new numbering and scheme and all that, which I kind of like. It feels kind of retro, which I kind of like that. So anyway, um, so Flash was pretty good. Uh, I'm a Flash fan for the most part. I've always liked Wally West. I probably like Wally West better than Barry Allen. Although I was like, wow, when Barry Allen died in Crisis on Infinite Earths way back in the 80s. This basically tells the story of Wally and Barry Allen reconnecting, because Wally, of course, is sort of a linchpin character in Rebirth. He was sort of lost outside of time and was outside of continuity and managed to come back in the DC Rebirth special. So uh, there's a lot going on with their relationship. Um, and then there's a little bit more. Most of these one shots and continuing series don't really tell more of the story of Rebirth as far as why did the universe change and who did it and what's going on. But this one tells a little bit more. Flash goes and visits Batman, and there's the Watchman um, smiley face with the blood on it, the classic Watchman iconography or whatever. Um, and it's sort of setting up, what's to come in the Flash. So overall, a really good issue. Um, if you're into Rebirth at all, I would at least get the one shots. Get the DC Rebirth #1 special and get all the one shots, because what the one shots do is they establish the new status quo before the new series picks up. So that's kind of what's going on. It's good, especially if you're into like Flash, Wally West, if you want to see more of what Batman is trying to figure out, because Batman, of course, is figuring out, hey, something's going on here. He's kind of seeing some of the Watchmen stuff kind of coming into the main universe. So yeah, check it out. Titans Rebirth. I got a couple of things to say about it. One, I absolutely love Wally West's new costume. I think it looks great. I like how they left the hair. So you got the red hair working with the costume. Um, and I really like that a lot. The other thing that this issue does is it's just basically Wally West reestablishing his relationships with Nightwing, Speedy, Aqualad, Wonder Girl, and there's a There's a character in here I really don't know. I had assumed it was Starfire, but it's not. It's like Mantis or something like that. I'm not really up on a lot of the new Titans stuff. Which is, that's one of the things I'm liking about Rebirth. I'm kind of relearning the DC universe again. I was seeing if I could find the name of the character. I thought maybe he was either Raven or Starfire. I didn't know quite what was going on, but it wasn't either of those characters. See if I can uh, find the name of the character. I mean, it's not massively important, but it basically Lilith. That's it. Lilith is the character. So I don't know if I don't think that's Raven. I could be wrong. It doesn't look like Raven, but anyway, um, it basically when Wally West touches people, they suddenly remember the relationship with him, and he's telling them both in this issue and in Titans Rebirth, because those that's where Wally West is mainly featured. He's telling them, hey, some of the relationships are missing. Like when Barry Allen said that, Iris is my friend, Wally West is like, your friend, because that they're supposed to be, Iris and Barry Allen are like, one of the main love stories in comics. Um, so not only are people remembering him, but Wally is kind of either outright saying or kind of hinting around to people that, relationships, something's, we've lost about 10 years here. Something's not quite right. Um, Wonder Woman Rebirth. This is again the one shot. We're still in the one shots. There's a couple interesting things going on here. One, first of all, I'm kind of bummed that I got the variant cover. The non-variant covers have sort of a close-up usually, and then the variant covers have this sort of, you have the character and then you have the DC logo underneath. I was kind of bummed out that I didn't get. I like to be consistent. I'm not big into the variant covers, but that's neither here nor there. The comic book reads the same. Um, Basically, what's going on here again? These one shots are reestablishing or changing the status quo for the books and the characters as the relaunch goes forward. And basically, Wonder Woman finds out she's kind of been living a lie, because she's been told in recent continuity that she's basically the god of war, goddess of war. She's learning new stuff that may or may not be true. I think she's found out that, I think, if I remember from Rebirth or just prior, either she has a sister or a brother, or there was somebody else born the same night she was on Paradise Island, which some people call Themyscira, or whatever. I think it's dumb. It's Paradise Island. Um, a neat thing that, and here's a great, double page spread there out of the Wonder Woman. But one thing that I really liked about this issue, it may have been done in comic books before. I don't remember it, but Wonder Woman uses the lasso on herself to force her to admit the truth about her life, like subconsciously or something. She knows things are wrong, and I thought that was a really interesting thing that the writer did. Who is the writer here? Looks like Rucka. Is that Greg Rucka? Yeah, Greg Rucka. He did that. That was really cool. So that was one thing I really liked about this issue. And then also a lot of this Rebirth comics, you're getting this double page spread that's sort of a tribute to Darwin Cook. Very nicely done. And I'm trying so hard to get my hand on this Justice League New Frontier trade paperback. I can't get it anywhere. I think they're reissuing it. I hope so, but I can't get it. I've checked all the local comic book stores. I went to an expo, comic book expo. Nobody had it. I can buy individual issues here and there. I don't want to do that. I just want to get the trade paperback. I've seen the animated movie. I want to read the story of New Frontier. So, and then the last of the one shots that, like I said, is sort of reestablishing the status quo is, of course, Aquaman, where, and Aquaman's always kind of, and I don't remember it being like this growing up, but in the past 10, 20 years or so, he's been sort of the joke of superheroes, which I don't think is justified, but he's always been an interesting character to me. Um, However, I've got to be honest, I haven't read a lot of Aquaman outside of like Justice League or stuff like that. I did read some of Peter David's stuff, and was it in the 90s when Peter David was doing Aquaman, and I really liked that version of Aquaman with the long hair and the beard and the hook and all that. I thought that was a good Aquaman, but Anyway, this looks pretty interesting. Or not looks pretty. It was pretty interesting. Like I said, I haven't read anything bad yet. And what this deals with, nothing new here, but they're kind of bringing it all back in as part of his dynamic, is that he's the king of Atlantis, but a lot of Atlantis wants to reject him because he's part surface dweller. And then he doesn't really fit in the surface world because he's the king of Atlantis and also, the sovereign of all the seas. So his conflict, his loyalties are kind of conflicted. He's not just a straight up superhero, even though he's in the Justice League and he can kind of fill that role. And then it's also kind of telling his relationship with Mara, his wife. I'm not sure if they're married in this current continuity or not, but it's basically his girlfriend, significant other, queen. Um, they have a nice little. They actually sit down for dinner and have a conversation, and that's kind of nice in this issue. And then of course it's like dun dun dun, and it introduces or reintroduces Black Manta. So, and Black Manta, this whole issue is told from his perspective, and you don't realize it till towards the end because he's talking about all the struggles that Arthur has to face and all that, and then towards the end he's like, well, I would almost feel sorry for him, and then it reveals it's been from the perspective of Black Manta, who hates him and is out to just absolutely destroy him. So there's nothing new being established here, but they're kind of bringing it all together all at once and kind of turning the volume up a little bit. I'm going to read a few issues of Aquaman to see how it goes, and it's been a long time since I said I was going to read some Aquaman, so I hope it goes well. I've actually picked up a few more issues of comic books today, including a lot of Rebirth stuff, and Aquaman #1 is in there. And I just haven't had a chance to read it yet, so I won't be talking about that today. And also that reminds me, with Rebirth, in DC, a lot of the DCs are going to start being, or DC titles are going to start being twice monthly. So that's interesting. I don't know how hard that'll be to keep up with budget and time wise, but we'll see. Okay, so now we're done with the one-shot Rebirths, and we're into the actual ongoing series with the new status quo being established. We've got Action Comics, and they resumed with the normal numbering of 957, and then we've got Superman #1. Okay, so and like I said, these are the ongoing series now. They're one shots have set a new status quo. Now, Action Comics seems like, I mean, it's going to have Superman in it, but it seems like it's going to feature Lex Luthor a lot. You got Lex Luthor who's like, well, Superman's dead, and he's like, what better way to defeat him than outdoing his legacy? So you've got Superman and Lex Luthor facing off, and Luthor, or Luther, however you want to put it, is in a sort of battle armor with a cape that has the S shield on it. I think you can see a little bit better there. And Superman is at home and sees this on TV. Lex Luthor is kind of floating around on TV making big speeches about, Superman's gone, now let me do the job, da-da-da. And Clark Kent, Superman, is like, who's undercover as Jonathan, or Clark White, I think, is, you got Lois and Clark and their son, I think Jonathan, John, and they're undercover like 300 miles away from Metropolis under the last name White. Well, for the first time, he's, this is a Superman that's from the pre-Flashpoint universe that made it into the existing continuity through Convergence, through the stuff that happened in Convergence, and he's been undercover. He's been helping people out undercover in this sort of black costume with a beard, not trying to fly the colors of Superman. And Lois has been writing exposés against Intergang under, I think, the name Author X. So, because everyone in this world knows who Clark Kent was and that he was Superman, and so, they've been laying low. Now, Superman died. The New 52 Superman died. I mean, just straight up, boom, dead. And this Superman was, kind of, what am I going to do? Well, then he sees Lex do this, and he's like, that's it. So he shaves his beard off with the classic, using a mirror with his heat vision and, directing it, jumps in the colors, the full-on Superman costume, and flies out to confront him. Um, and then at the end, dun dun dun, who's that? Oh my goodness, that's some classic 90s Doomsday right there. Classic 90s Doomsday. So that's where it ends with Lex and Superman um, seeing that, confronting that. So pretty good stuff. Like I said, I'm gonna I'm gonna check all this stuff out for a few issues and see how it goes. I feel like I'm gonna stay with Superman and the Batman stuff for sure. I'm pretty intrigued by what I'm seeing going on there, and I've always liked Superman. I've never thought there was a problem with Superman. I think he's a good character. In fact, I think they've depowered him too much over the years. I had no problem with him being amazingly super powerful, super smart, super this, super that. Can move the planet. All that. I didn't care, but other people have a problem with that. So whatever. And now we're on to Superman, and this where I think Action Comics is going to deal a lot with Lex as trying to overtake and be a better Superman than Superman is. This is going to be more about Clark and his family and his son John. And John has powers they've recently discovered. That deals with that in this issue. There's a pretty powerful moment, and I'm kind of making a pun on words there, where he's trying to save his cat and realizes that he may not have all the controls of his powers that he wants to have. Now, I'll just say, if you're a cat lover, you might go, ooh, there might be a moment where you're like, oh. And then at the end, the Batman and Wonder Woman, the new 52 Batman and Wonder Woman visit Clark at night, and they're kind of having a hush talk with him, and you kind of get the sense that Batman and Wonder Woman, they're wanting to know who he is. They don't quite trust him. It's like, Superman's dead? Who are you? And then it ends with Superman basically going to Jonathan and saying, "Come with me. We're leaving right now." So that's where that ends. An enjoyable read. Interesting stuff. So here we go. Detective Comics, and they've also gone with the numbering of, they're on 934, so they've gone back to their normal numbering. Yeah, right there. They New 52 redid it number 1 and did where they're just like, we're back to our normal numbering, which is fine with me. I mean, honor the fact that your magazine's been around that flippin' long. I mean, that's pretty amazing. I used to be fascinated growing up, trying to look at the numbers and try to divide it by 12 and calculate how long has this been around, and then well, this doesn't make any sense. And then I would realize that later I realized that titles or comic books sometimes changed names but kept the same numbering. The Tales of Suspense is now Iron Man, or that's a bad example because I think Iron Man actually started at number 1. But sometimes comics change names but kept their numbering. Anyway, so Detective Comics, they are assembling a team to train of, you've got Red Robin, you got the Spoiler, and you got Clayface. And then you've got Batman and Batwoman are doing the training. Kind of has a Batman and the Outsiders vibe, which is cool with me. I really liked Batman and the Outsiders, back in the day. Some of the newer stuff, I'm like, whatever. But I liked that vibe. So they're not quite doing that, but they're oh yeah, and it's also got what used to be Batgirl, Cassandra Cain. You can barely see her. She's kind of ninja'd out. I think her name's Orphan now. I liked her run whenever she was Batgirl and in No Man's Land and all that. Anyway, so it's basically dealing with two things. One, them trying to Clayface blows it. How is Clayface in this? But they're going to make it work, I guess. They're going to give him a chance to be a hero. And it's basically them trying to train these three, I guess, junior heroes. Red Robin, I don't quite get why they're, he's been around long enough, Tim Drake. But anyway, they're going to train him as part of this team. This, I didn't dislike it. I like the vibe of what they're trying to do. I'm kind of curious why Red Robin and That Orphan I can kind of see. Spoiler I can kind of see, and then I'm kind of why Red Robin and Clayface. I don't know. Maybe it'll just make a more interesting team dynamic. I think maybe there could have been some different choices, but I'll let it play out a little bit. Um, the art's really nice. The story's good enough, and there's some sort of major threat um, in Gotham that is targeting to try to kill um, the bat people basically. And at the very beginning, Azrael just absolutely gets his butt kicked by somebody that at first you think is Batman, and then you realize that it's not Batman. So we'll see how that goes. Now, Batman #1. I just got to stop in a second and say probably out of the whole pile, this was probably the most powerful read. Um, there's a new creative team on Batman. We've got, who do we have here? We have Tom King and David Finch uh, doing writing and pencils, and then Matt Banning is doing inks. Jordi Belair is doing colors. John Workman doing letters. In the previous, was it Scott Snyder? Was it Snyder and Capullo? I'm probably saying that name wrong, but you had a really strong team on Batman for the past few years, and that's a pretty hard act to follow. This was a really powerful issue. I mean, they're like, hey, we ain't messing around. We're coming out the gate strong, and they did. And it basically tells the story of, you kind of see this jetliner up here that's in trouble, and there's a airliner about to crash in Gotham. Batman can't reach any of his big guns, Superman, Green Lantern. He can't get a hold of me, so he's got to handle this on his own, and he just has a few minutes to do so. It's a very powerful story, and then it introduces. They've been talking about them coming. There's Gotham and Gotham Girl, which are two new supposed heroes that are coming to Gotham. I thought they were going to be kind of street level heroes, but in the book they're sort of like superhuman, flying and feats of strength and that sort of thing. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this book progresses. But I got to say, as far as just the strongest individual issue I read out of all the issues I'm going over in this video, this is the one right here. Really strong stuff. After all these years, after all these decades, Batman is still such a powerful character, and they're doing a great job. Last couple here, we got Green Lanterns and Green Arrow. I really didn't think I was going to be that into Green Lanterns, but so far between the one-shot Rebirth special and then #1, I actually kind of like it. It's kind of a buddy cop. Put two people together who don't normally mix, and they got to work together. And you're introducing the Red Lanterns, or not introducing, but they're coming into the book as part of the storyline. You kind of better understanding the two. You got Jessica and Boz as the two Green Lanterns. One of them, Boz is like, he doesn't completely trust the ring, so he carries a gun and stuff like that. And it's good, and I like that in the Rebirth #1 special for Green Lanterns, Hal Jordan actually took their two power batteries and combined them into one, so they have to be together, and they have to charge the rings at the same. They cannot charge the rings. They both have to be together and charge the rings at the same time. So that was really a cool move to force them to work together, and it's pretty good. So I'm gonna keep up with it for a while, and then I guess the other, like Hal Jordan and those Green Lanterns, because these two are both pretty much rookies on Earth. In fact, they deal with that. People are like, "Hey, where's the real Green Lanterns?" When they're trying to deal with a situation. And then the Hal Jordan and those Green Lanterns, the more established Green Lanterns, are out dealing with Sinestro, evidently, and I'm looking forward to read that stuff. I know there's some comics coming with that in the next month or two for the Rebirth. And then finally, Green Arrow, #1. I really liked the Green Arrow one-shot for Rebirth because it reestablished the relationship between him and Black Canary, which I think is a relationship that should be in comics. This was a good read. It's going more like him and Black Canary are still spending time together. His sister, Green Arrow's sister, if I understand it, is with him. But there's a lot of it kind of contrasts Oliver's way of doing things and Dinah's ways of doing things and how he uses his money to try to help people. And I mean, he literally pays cops to look out. You know, he'll give cops money. Hey, if you hear anything, let me know. And if like if he finds he found basically a bad guy on the docks that was turning his eyes to let stuff happen. You know, Oliver Queen gave him money and said, "You work for me now, so you tell me when stuff's going on." So, in addition to running around with his arrows and all of that, the green arrow costume and doing superhero stuff, he's paying people off. He's throwing money around. You know, and so there's some discussion between Black Canary and him about that. And you know, he takes her to all these days, you know, orphanages and medical places. Shows how he tries to use his money to help people. Then at the end, there's a pretty good cliffhanger, um, and it looks like what it looks like it's leading into is because he starts asking the wrong person the wrong questions as Oliver Queen, and the guy, you know, and it turns out, you know, the guy's like, well, I can't kill Oliver Queen, but I can ruin him. So it really looks to me like it's going to be like the Daredevil thing back in the day, Frank Miller run, where you know the Kingpin found out who. Um, Daredevil was and just ruined him. Didn't kill him, but ruined him. You know, ruined his reputation, took away all his money, and just made him basically homeless. So I have a feeling that's what's going to kind of happen here. I don't know if I'm going to keep going Green Arrow or not. I mean, you know, I'm interested to see how things are going. I've read the one shot. I've read, you know, issue number 1 of the new series. Uh, I don't know if I'm, you know, because I can't keep buying all the DC stuff indefinitely. So this may be one of the ones that gets dropped. Everything else, I'm probably going to give a few more issues just to see how it's going. Um, if I have a guess, I'll probably end up dropping Wonder Woman down the road, maybe Aquaman. We'll see, because traditionally those are the books that I've given a few issues and then never stuck with. But we'll see. You know, they could prove me wrong. I'll probably stick with Titans for a while. Only because I love team books, and I was reading a lot of Marvel team books, and I dropped those. So Titans will hopefully become one of my new team books. So anyway, that's the extra Rebirth that I have to talk about. Um, Again, I'm pretty impressed with how Rebirth is going. I think DC's doing a pretty good job here. Uh, it's intriguing to watch them do a status quo change without doing a reboot. That's pretty interesting. I'm curious to see how stuff's going to go with the Watchmen universe coming into DC continuity and how that's all going to play out. Um, and probably my one point of confusion really at this point is they really set up a lot of stuff with DC Rebirth #1 when they brought Wally West back and introduced all these, hey, the universe has gone wrong and da 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 da. I'm curious when that's going to play out, because I've read a lot more Rebirth since that, and I haven't seen much. So I don't know if they're just going to let that play out over time, or if there's going to be another couple of issues down the pike that really address. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. So it's kind of interesting to wonder how they're going to address that and when we're going to get the answers and that sort of thing. But again, so far I'm pretty impressed with Rebirth. Um, you know, and I plan to keep up and see what DC's up to and stick with it. I'm going to get all the stuff. They have these little checklists. And yeah, all these little checklists. And as I'm going to get everything on these checklists, and it keeps updating, you know, with each month, the checklist changes with the new stuff coming. I'm going to try to get everything on these checklists and at least get a really good broad view of what's going on with DC. And then from there, I'll continue with some issues and not others. But for right now, I'm enjoying it. I totally recommend it to kind of see what's going on, because I think DC's really making not just a gimmicky, let's make sales effort, but they're really making an effort to address their entire line on a fundamental level and get back to the things that, you know, are missing, and reinforcing the things that are good about their stories and books and characters, without doing yet another reboot. So it's interesting, and you know, I'm rooting for them. So thanks so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. I have all kinds of content, not just comic books, games. I have a geek talk radio show that I put the audio version on YouTube. Just all kinds of different stuff. Really appreciate you watching. Leave me a comment and a thumbs up. I'd love to have your comments on this, whether you're enjoying Rebirth or not, and what you thought of these issues. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time on Chain Plays.